I cannot believe that I'm publicly admitting this, but at the core, I am very much a weeb. So today I want to talk a little bit about Neon Genesis Evangelion. It is an anime that I held very dear to my heart, and it's an anime that I really like. And because it's an anime that I really like, and I even have a small figurine of it, and I'm thinking about getting Unit 1 tattooed on my body, I've had a lot of people ask me, oh, is it something that I should watch? And to that I can only say, maybe? I don't think so. Because even though that Neon Genesis revolves around big fucking mechs and look really cool and big anime fights that look really nice, it only does that for a small period of time, and then the rest of the time it's way more about trauma and depression and feelings of loneliness and getting outcasted. I will still say that 99% of animes are like trash and I don't like them, but there is a few that I really like. I feel like anime follows a lot of tropes these days. Like you have your shonen and you have your harem animes, and I don't really like that much. There is some few shonens that I really do like Naruto. I fucking love that for no reason at all, even though that I know that it's not that good. And I really like Jujutsu Kaisen, and I really like Chainsaw Man. But there is one anime that always sticks out to me, and that will always be Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Shinji, crank that, soldier boy.
I think that anime holds a lot of heart in a sense that other animes don't really do. The short answer is if I can recommend Neon Genesis. Maybe, if you have the stomach for it, but not everyone does. So Neon Genesis is very unique in that sense that it starts off with being cool, big anime battles with big mechs and big fights. And I'm a mech guy, I love mechs. But that's not really what the anime is about. It's 99% about how Shinji, the main character, the 15-year-old guy that you've seen the funny pictures with where he sits on the plastic chair, it's about his behavior and how he feels. And he doesn't feel very good. He feels like shit. You know, he doesn't feel happiness. He has a hard time connecting with the people around him. His dad doesn't really like him. His mom is dead, which might be a little thing happening later in the story. Generally, he doesn't feel very good. When you talk about Neon Genesis as a whole, what you see from the outside is, oh, cool mechs and cool fights. But when you actually watch the show, you realize quite fast that it was never about the mechs. The reason why it can be so difficult to recommend is obviously the initial standpoint when you're looking at the anime is quite different from what the anime actually is. The anime really fast delves into surrealism and abstraction, and at the end it's not at all what you think it would be. As the name also suggests, evangelism, that there is a lot of religious symbolism in it, which can be for some viewers quite like hard. For me, I just think it's fun. I think it's cool, stuff like that. Like I think the occult is pretty interesting. So for me, it's not that big of a problem, but for some people it will definitely be big of a problem. So to give a rundown of what happens in the show starts with Shinji becoming a pilot, which is going into the units. The reason why he is that is because that he is deeply traumatized and he wants acceptance of his dad in this dystopian future, and his dad is the leader of the units basically. And what happens in the start of the anime is your cookie cutter anime. He goes in a unit, he fights an angel. An angel is the bad guy, by the way, and that's about it. And then further on in the show, there gets more characters introduced, and oh, they also pilot units and they also fight angels, and that's really cool. But the show becomes quite dark pretty fast. It starts off slow with Shinji moving in with Mikasa, where she's like teacher, but she's also like a mother figure, and she's also like a lover figure in a sense, which is already quite strange. It's quite weird, I'm gonna be honest. And then when Asuka comes in, which is the red-haired girl that's 14, it gets even weirder because she's like a sister figure, but she's also like a companion, but she's also a partner at the same time. But she doesn't really like him because she has abused herself and trauma. And the show really delves into how difficult it is to connect with the people around each other. When you also look at Japan, I've lived in Japan for 6 months roughly, so I know about Japanese culture like a little bit, but it is quite a lonely culture. People work day in, day out. I'm pretty sure the average is around 6 days a week you work, and then you have 1 day off. You're supposed to be at the job until for 8 hours, and then after 8 hours you will be looked down upon if you don't stay for longer. And then you'll also have to go out drinking at the evening with your boss, because or else you won't have enough like company interest. And then you wake up at 6 in the morning with a hangover and do it all the way over again. So the show definitely delves into that a lot, about the loneliness there is in the Japanese society, and especially also with the work ethic ethics, how much you're supposed to work. Like, these children are 14, 15, and they're supposed to go out, basically save all of humanity by giving up their own life to pilot these units, which is not good. I'm pretty sure they removed child labor laws, but I'm also pretty sure that America brought it back again in some states, which is interesting. The show also has a lot of psychological toll on the characters. The more they use the Evangelions, the more like combined they turn into them. They kind of turn into one, and it's pretty straining on them. And as a 15-year-old, you probably shouldn't be having that strain on your body. This is major spoiler. The only person that actually likes Shinji and doesn't want to use him as just a tool to like save humanity or whatever. He's an angel, a best friend, but he's also sorta a lover, like love interest. It's really weird, but it's his best friend basically, right? And as he shows himself to be an angel, then Shinji is met with a choice, either killing all of humanity or kill his best friends with his own hands. Not good. So why does it have that big of a cult following, but also so mainstream at the same time? I think it can be from different point of views. I think a lot of the people that haven't watched the show, they think that, oh, the reason why it's so mainstream and why it's so cool is because it's an old anime, it's a classic, it has all these big mechs and stuff like that. But I think that the people that have actually watched it knows that that's not the reason why you like the show. You like the show for its introspection. Major spoiler again. At the end of the show, I was watching it originally with a friend and then I rewatched it a couple times afterwards. At the end of the show, the last 2 episodes, it's like the fake ending. Long story short, they also released a bunch of movies because the creator didn't really like the way it ended, and the publisher were like, oh, it has to end this way because or else we can't really sell it, which they're probably right with. But then they made a bunch of movies to actually like tie it in properly together at the end, and it's kind of weird. Nevertheless, in the original show, the last 2 episodes, I like to call those episodes the whole, because all of this other stuff is happening in the show. I'm just gonna give some few plot points so you understand like what's happening. Shinji is fucking depressed. He's been abused. He's been a little bit sexually traumatized, most likely. I mean, in the first movie, he literally jerks off in front of his 15-year-old classmate that's in a coma. So he's not right. The whole is pretty funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's funny in that sense of like all this other stuff is happening. Like people are fighting the angels and there's these big mech fights happening. And Shinji is sitting on a plastic chair thinking about loneliness and thinking about depression, thinking of that he can't connect with his peers. And it's pretty funny because you get like these cuts of like fights and other cool stuff, and then it cuts back to Shinji sitting in the fucking plastic chair being fucking depressed. So you're sitting for like 2 minutes being like, oh yeah, this is cool, this is really nice, and then it cuts directly back to the hole and you're like, oh my god, we're so back, we're back in the hole, guys, please. And that's pretty funny. I think that's one of the reasons why that it has a cult following, is because it's so clear when it comes to its actually messaging. But for the people outside, they just look, oh, old anime, cool look, cool animation, big mix. But the people that actually watch it with a cult following, I would say, is people that are like, oh man, this show is fucking BoJack Horseman level depression. I would say way more than BoJack Horseman. The reason why the show is also so weird in a sense comes from the director's own personal anecdotes. He struggled with connecting with his peers, he struggled with loneliness, and he struggled with depression himself. And at the end, it also kind of incorporates that into Shinji, the main character's mind, where there's this surrealism takes of like actual people walking around in Japan, and then it comes back into the anime. And I think it's a way for him to like kind of incorporate the two to say that, yeah, this might be an anime about mechs and cool stuff, but man, we're depressed out here. You know, I think that's one of the main reasons why it gets so weird. And it's also quite unnerving when you're watching an anime and everything is drawn, and then the second you just get a picture of an actual woman. There's just like woman and man, and they're walking down the street, and you're like, what the? And then obviously the ending scene where everyone's just clapping, and then the season ends. So in conclusion, do I think you should watch Neon Genesis? Maybe. I know that's not the conclusion you want, but maybe. I watched it originally with a friend, and then my wife also really wanted to watch it, but there is a lot of like, I wouldn't say necessarily like sexual abuse, but they are 14, 15, and a lot about it is how they want to be, like have partners. And maybe it's not about having partners, but more like being close with another person. Some people don't take that very well. There was a girl that asked me if she should watch it, and I flat out told her no, because she's more squeamish than I am. And that is something that people can find triggering, which is completely understandable. It also delves a lot into depression and loneliness and not being able to connecting with your peers, and that can be very hard for some people. I think if you can have a take where you can see it from a distance and just understand like what the show is about and try to get into it, then yeah, go for it. Cool fights, cool style, really interesting surrealism, and I would say the last like 10 episodes is more like a piece of art than it's like anime. Not to say that anime isn't art, but you know, like a painting. It's more like an abstract painting than it is actual anime. If you can get into that and you think that's interesting and want an anime that has a lot of meat on it when it comes to psychological drama, then yeah, 100% you should watch it. But if you just want an anime about mechs fighting and cool anime style, then don't watch it. That's not for you. It really isn't. Well, you can watch like the first 6 episodes and then that's about it. I think it's difficult to recommend, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it.
If you have something to say, then just spit it out already.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it's hard to recommend? Do you think it's easy to recommend? And what are your thoughts about the show? And I also love to hear your thoughts just about anything about the show. I am a huge nerd in this. I even brought out my anime shirt. Let me show you my anime shirt. And if you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.